All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another amazing YouTube video. This one's going to be really, really fun. I've got my good friend Joel Kaplan joining us today for a interview, just talking about our entrepreneurial journeys and what we've learned so far scaling our businesses. Some insights from him, some insights from me. It's a lot of fun. It's a really, really solid interview, and I just want to introduce you guys to Joel. He's got some really good stuff out there. They do like $500,000 a month in their business, which is incredible to me. And they've had $1 million month across their two businesses. Joel does two things. He runs a agency, I think it's like for chiropractors or something like that. And then he has a program where he helps people scale their business to the level they've scaled their agency. So he's got a really cool thing going on. And I just wanted to bring him onto the channel just to sort of interview him and show you guys, some of the higher level conversations, some of the things that you sort of start to think about as you're scaling your business higher and higher, and some of the things that he's looking to fix as he scales, as well as what he was struggling with when he got started. And then I sort of share some of my methodology in terms of, how I make decisions in my business and what role I let time play in my decision-making process. So I recommend you watch this whole video, or if you're listening to this somewhere, I think we're starting a podcast soon, so we're gonna have this probably on Spotify, something like that. No matter where you're tuning in from, enjoy the video, enjoy the content, and be sure to take some notes because this is a lot of fun. And I've hung around with Joel for a while. We've had a couple calls and just gotten to know each other. And he's a really smart dude and really knows what he's talking about. And I highly recommend you, again, watch the whole video. So without further ado, hopefully you enjoy. Welcome to the channel, Joel Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan, what's up, dude?
Yo, yo, yo. How's it going?
Welcome aboard, dude. It's great to be speaking with you. We've got a lot of people that, follow your stuff. And I can vouch for it. It's incredible what you're doing, some of the successes you're creating and the business that you've built. Really admire your team. It's just cool to have you on the channel.
Appreciate you having me, man. We were speaking earlier. I know I don't have as nice a camera as you, but it's good to be here. I do have the mic at least.
Yeah, at least
so the audio will be solid.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, I don't really know what you want to talk about. I'm happy to share anything around how I scaled my agency to over 200 clients. Happy to talk about my coaching business, how we're scaling that to over $500,000 a month.
Cool.
However I could be of value, just let me know, man.
I love it, dude. I think, to be honest with you, man, the technical is laid out there and we've got so many resources and you've got so many resources on the technical, the tactical, building a funnel, crafting an offer, sales, everything like that. To be honest with you, I'd kind of love to just know what shifts you had to make in your mentality and how you viewed your business in the process of growing it. Because I know you reached out to me after I interviewed Robbie and you're like, yo, dude, that was a great interview. I want to do one. And I was like, let's do it. And my interview with Robbie was good, honestly, because I got him to say some stuff that he hasn't said anywhere else. So I'm curious for you, when you started to where you are now, everybody kind of has a few moments of shifting in their mentality in regards to their business, how they view money, how they view their team, how they view their products, how they view the impact they can bring to the world. So kind of contrast where you were when you got started to where you are now and some of the big belief changes that have happened.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think anyone that's watching this that is starting out and hasn't broken past the 10K per month mark, I think it all comes down to leveling up your skills and your character. So I'll give you an example. When you're just starting out, you might not be good at sales, yet that is one of the most crucial skills to get past the 10K a month barrier. So all of your mindset needs to be dialed in on how do I improve my highest ROI skills, whether that's marketing or sales. It's probably going to be one of those two, to be honest, setting and closing appointments to break past the 10K a month barrier. And I think also when you're going from 0 and then breaking past the 10K a month mark, you have so many bad behaviors, bad habits, bad ways of thinking that you have to rewire to evolve into an entrepreneur that can actually scale. For example, when we're just starting out, we all face the fear of rejection. Robert Kiyosaki says that is one of the main reasons why people never succeed. And we have to lean into the failure because, as you and I both know, if you don't actually take action and fail, you don't ever get the data required to figure out what you need to tweak next to go back out, take more action, and then get things to finally work. So going from 0 to 10K, the mindset needs to be, how do I improve the skills that will bring me the highest ROI possible? For most of us, at least in the online business space, it's either going to be sales or marketing. And then the second question you absolutely must answer is, how does my character need to evolve to have the right mindset, the right ways of thinking, the right habits to break past the 10K a month mark?
Mm.
For example, you have to be willing to lean into failure. Just like, and there's obviously way more examples. That's one of the
Right.
examples I gave.
Makes a lot
I
of sense.
think
Well, and tell me about you though, and like, what were some of yours at the start? Like, and how'd you break through them? Because, I mean, nobody comes out the womb a $500,000 a month business owner. I mean, it's just like there's so
for
much.
sure. Yeah.
Like, tell us about you a little bit there. Like, what issues did you run to when you were getting started, or even maybe in the past 6 months? Like, if don't know how vulnerable you're willing to be, but I mean, everybody's got things they're always working through. So I'd love to hear some of
It's a
that.
great question. Yeah, you definitely want that exclusive content that doesn't get shared
Yeah.
anywhere else. I'd say at the start, I definitely had my own, and I've shared this publicly before. I definitely had my own insecurities. I definitely had my own uh, fear. I think lack of belief in myself. And I almost gave up 3 times, which is crazy looking back, because now I run 2 multi 7-figure businesses. We've hit $1 million month combined with both businesses. And to almost have given up on all that is absolutely crazy. But I think one of the hardest parts at the beginning was continuing to lean into the uncertainty when you still lack that belief in yourself. And like, even if I ask you now, yo, Trey, do you believe you can go out and make 10K a month? You're like, yeah, because you've done it. But at the beginning, when you just started out and when I just started out, we probably didn't have that same level of confidence. And I'd say at the beginning, there was a lot of, I'd say mindset wise, that's where a lot of my own crap came from. Just not having a belief in myself and not willing to lean into the uncertainty and trusting that if I committed to leveling up my skills and my character, it would eventually click.
Hmm.
I'd say
Was there Oh, sorry, man. I've got a question. Was there a time when like you kind of officially leaned into that uncertainty? Can you look back and be like, this is when I decided like I'm gonna move it, or was it just a slow, steady over time? Like you just slowly were proving it to yourself that you could do it and stacking those small wins to give yourself that kind of box of evidence that you can look at when you're uncertain. Like was it just a moment, or was it over time, or what did that look like for you?
it's going to be different for every person. Like, for example, we were already at 10K a month and I still felt the same anxiety and fear and uncertainty. So for me,
Yeah.
like, and some people don't feel that and they're at one client. So there's
Yep.
definitely context here. I think for me, the moment where things started to move in the right direction was actually I had applied for a job. I could literally pull up the email and show you. It's crazy. I had a
That'd be
I
sick.
had a Here, I'll even show you. It's pretty crazy.
That's so cool, man.
Um,
Have you changed your email address since you were working applying for jobs? Is the same one?
my personal, but yo, seriously, uh, like, anyone on the interview is gonna see this, or anyone watching this video. Like, I had literally applied for this job January 11th, 2018. And they told me we received an overwhelming number of applicants and have chosen to move forward with other candidates. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to
Hmm.
commit to the business for at least the next, I think, I forget how much it was, but it was like 6 weeks or 90 days. I'm going to give it a certain amount of time and really, really burn the ships in my mind,
Yep.
not just in the external world with my resources, but really more so in my mind, and saying, you know what, I'm going all in no matter what. And I'm going to actually give it the amount of focus, energy required to scale up. And that's when things really started to shift. And what's crazy, and I tell this to my own agency students all the time, going from zero to one is so much harder because there's so much that you have to level up in. And there's so much in your mind that you have to work through that you really do need to go all in to generate enough momentum to actually get the rocket off the ground. So I think for me personally, that was the moment. And obviously, like you said, there was also some win stacking. There was more things happening in the background. We had a good month, which led to more belief in myself. But ultimately, the moment where I remember that I started to shift in that direction was when I got rejected, and I just mentally decided to burn the ships.
I love it, dude. The moment for me, and I'll share this. So first $10,000 profit day was when I finally was like, all right, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
because up until then I was like, this is cool, like, 30, 40 grand a month. But even taking a step back, that's what pushed me to level them out. Now we're going to do $1 million profit this year. Like we're only 6 days into the month. We've done like 35,000 in sales, which is crazy to me. It's like, it blows my mind looking at those numbers, but we're good at what we do. And so you look back though at like the beginning for me, the house fire that I went through when I was 17, mix that with our family was getting sued because our dog bit somebody. Mix that with my dad's also an entrepreneur, and he was having like these like crazy tax things that were going on that like scared us. And looking back, it wasn't as big a deal as we thought it was, but we didn't know if we owed 10 grand or 500. Like you just, sometimes stuff like that happens. And so just all these things come into one place. And I said, all right, I'm going to figure this out for the sake of my family and my future. Cause like, I don't want to be like a 17-year-old useless kid. I want to be an earner for my family. So like, that's my first moment. And when it became real was about 2.5 years later, my first $10,000 profit single day. So it's like, everybody's got that journey. Everybody's got that story of like what pushed them into action and what got them to go over the ledge. It sounded like what got you to get started was just like, you didn't want to have to settle for the 9 to 5 thing. You're like, frick this.
For sure. I had, and I'm sure a lot of us feel this, especially for anyone that isn't a 9 to 5, you feel like you're meant for something bigger. You feel like you're meant for something more, something greater than yourself. And like that was eating me alive. So eventually I quit, but then it just smacked me right in the face. And I realized this journey, especially in the agency space, is an uphill battle, especially at the beginning, especially when you don't know. And after trying to give up a few times, that was really just my fear and my emotions getting the best of me. So like, for example, earlier we were talking about leveling up your character. One of the things that you need to level up to pass 10K a month in terms of your character is no longer being a person that's guided by your emotions. So I think when I had that shift and I said, you know what, I'm going to put my emotions aside and just look at the data because we are making progress and not be led by how I feel, like that really just helped me move in the right direction. I'd say now,
that's good.
Now you asked me like, what is the biggest difficulty now? It's actually crazy. We spend up to $3,000 a day on ads with my face on it. And because you need to like to scale multiple businesses to $1 million a month, you need to spend a lot of money on advertising, or at least it's a lot easier to hit those numbers with ads. And given that everything is revolved around the Joel Kaplan brand, what's happened is that we've gotten in front of so many people that now how people see you to a certain degree is outside of your control. And that is a huge shift in how you've ever lived your life. Because, for example, if a friend got pissed at you, they're like, you know what, Trey, you suck. You could talk to him and work things out. But at scale, your identity and your ego have to accept the fact that your people's perception of you is no longer in your control, no matter what you do. You could do the best things.
Dang.
You could literally be the best human being on the planet, and someone is going to question you or doubt you or find something that
Dude, that's so true. It's so funny that you say that, because like a lot of the people that I even like been mentored under, or even people, let's say even from my like people, the first time they stumble into my stuff, they're like, what a clown. They're like, there's no way this 21-year-old like D-bag is like making anywhere near as much as he claims to, or has anywhere near the results and it's just like, it's the same thing. every single time it's just like, but the closer they get to you, and I'm sure you've experienced this, the closer they get to you, Joel, it's like the more excitement they have about you, and they realize that you're actually a really like humble, cool dude. And like I've experienced that with people that I've paid, 30 grand to be in their mastermind and stuff. Like when 2 years ago, I thought they were a total scam. But then it's almost like every time I just move closer and closer, I'm like, wow, this is like a legitimately good thing. And I'm learning a lot from this person, and I've made a lot of money learning under them. And that's just kind of how the internet marketing sphere works, right? Like on the front end, the only way to communicate your message is in ways that don't speak to who you are and just speak directly to common human desire. And a lot of people call it out, and they feel really good calling it out.
For sure. And I think like this might not speak to as many people just because this happens really at a certain level, but once you achieve scale and you scale your business and people know about you and your brand is well known, you have to then come back to yourself and be really okay with who you are and trust that as long as you do the right thing, as long as you win with integrity, and as long as you take care of your clients, whatever the world think really doesn't matter. So
yep.
I think that if anyone listening is scaling and their name, their brand, their business is starting to become more well-known, that is going to be an internal challenge that you'll have to go through in terms of disconnecting from what people may or may not think, and just trusting that ultimately, as long as you do the right thing, as long as you win with integrity, and as long as you take care of your clients, you literally don't care about anyone else.
Yep.
So,
yep. I completely agree.
I'm trying to share
Yeah,
some things that I haven't shared anywhere else. That's definitely something, I've never talked about that. So
it's cool. It's interesting to hear that, and in my own level too, because we're coming up on 100,000 a month. So 500,000, 100,000. There's a big gap there for sure, but it's the same like problem. It's like it's literally like who am I publicly and who am I privately, and are those the same people? And like asking myself that honestly. And I work with a therapist, and she helps me like, because as you're running this business, dude, like it gets really easy to adopt what people say about you as true. Especially if somebody's paid you, and especially if somebody's paid you and work closely with you. And then, you can tell they did all the things wrong and they didn't implement it properly. And it's on their end, but sometimes you take it and you just identify with that and you hold it close to your heart, and it starts to emanate out into your actions. And then, so it really is being able to create that separation.
For sure.
And that's why actually I have a video on my channel, and I talk about like what you should look for in a business mentor. And one of the things that I started looking for was that they've been married successfully for a long period of time, or at least had one committed relationship. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Married for a while.
So it's like one committed for a long period. Yeah, and that's honestly like it's one of the things like I was like, Joel's legit. Like if he can have everybody that I know that can sustain a marriage, like you can't hide anything from your spouse. I'm not married, but I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So if your spouse hates you,
I mean, unless you have a toxic relationship and it's going to go downhill, but then that kind of defeats your point.
Right. Yeah.
That's so
Dude,
interesting.
So it's like you look for subtle things in people. Yeah. You look for subtle things like a good marriage or like family life, or like they've had the same friend circle for long, like those sorts of things to me say more than any income claims or anything like that. And that's what I've started to look for in people that I like attract to, because the subtleties of the way that they teach you and the way that they mentor you and guide you is going to show up in your life as well, and you start to adopt their worldview. And so I've just stopped looking at the people like the loose cannon types. I've just cut them out. I'm like, all right, who's been married for a long time? Like that's like my first filter, and then after that, it's like what are their success stories? So it's kind of to that point.
That's huge, man. I've never even thought about that. I've definitely thought about some of the best salespeople in the world are married, have a family. Because they have an obligation to put food on the table, and that's something pretty interesting. But
yeah, it's true. It's not like it's just money going into their bank so they can spend it on
whatever they want. Yeah, exactly. It's beyond themselves.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I've found that to be true across different industries. It seems to be the case. It's also why like people like I used to not like Grant Cardone much because he's just super mass market, but then like he's been really successful with his family. I'm like, that's actually really cool. Like, I mean, like, at the end of the day, the most important thing is like he's got that, And so it's like, I don't care about all the flash. I mean, he's flashy because he has to be. He's got 3.1 million followers on Instagram. So can you blame the guy? Like, you got to do flash at that scale. But you know, he's got wife and kids. And I'm like, dude, that's dope. Like, I don't know anything about the guy, honestly. I have no idea what his offers are. I haven't read his books, no nothing. But like, I've got a picture of him and his $2 on my vision board because I'm like, that's really cool to me.
He's smart, man. He's definitely he's got a really good interview on YouTube where he's guiding people through how to scale to $100 million. And one of the things that I really admire about him is how stupid he keeps things. And it's almost like sometimes in our game, we get in our own way because we just love to overcomplicate things. And sometimes you just got to dumb it down and execute. Yeah. He's like, yo, just spend more. You know,
yeah.
I literally messaged my business partners after watching that, and I was like, yo, we got to be more stupid. Sometimes we're
more stupid on the front end, man.
He's like, yeah, just hire more people and spend more money on ads. And he's right too. Like, it's the same thing as when we're starting, like, you know, with people just starting out, half the battle is not getting them to take action, but getting them to take action on the right things. And for the most part, that's setting and closing appointments, getting in front of actual prospects, putting their offer out there into the world, seeing if people bite, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes that simplicity is so necessary, and that sort of less intelligent way to approach things can actually have a huge positive effect. So I actually like Grant.
I've noticed
not gonna lie,
in my own way. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing in my own way. Like, honestly, you know, when the people who keep it simple, they go the furthest every time. Like, because they're not making unnecessary complexity. Like, I think we make unnecessary complexity, and here's kind of my theory. Like, we make unnecessary complexity to make up for the role that time is supposed to play. Like, we try to do more things and do make it more complex and add more inputs, but really just keeping it really simple, more ad spend, more hires, better offers, and then just give it time. I mean, I think time does its job, you know?
That's huge. Yeah. And honestly, that's something that should be mentioned more often. I think a lot of it's funny. I've started to do this on my coaching calls and we just implemented this week, where I'm going to have everyone bring me their data before I actually give them advice on what to do next. Because what I've realized is that most of the time, people don't actually give things enough time to actually see what went wrong and what went right. And they then end up changing things that might not need to be changed at all. And maybe what they're doing is exactly what they need to be doing. It just needs more time. So I think if anyone's watching this that's starting out, I think it's really important that you don't try to add or fix just because you're impatient. And it might be just as valuable to keep doing more, not new, and wait until you have enough data to see what worked, what didn't work, then come back to the drawing board, reevaluate, and execute from there. So
it's a good place to end it. I think that's a good methodology at every level, whether you're a beginner or you're at 500K a month. I mean, I think that applies every level. So appreciate your time, man. This has been great.
For sure, man.
Round 2 sometime.
Glad to be here, brother. Talk soon.
I'll talk soon.